And now we see Jenson Button driving in the all-new Brawn GP team and taking pole. David Coulthard, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely delighted. And Eddie, I have to say, I told you so, going with Rubens. But,
one up to
yeah.
DC, I'm afraid.
Okay, no, I'm delighted for Jenson. When I saw him run the car for the first time in Barcelona, he had a grin from ear to ear. And that's just indication that a driver knows that he's at one with the car.
And Eddie, if you can hear me in between this lovely F-18 from the Australian Air Force flying over for us, I don't really want to share this with the viewing public, but you did spend the entire qualifying session saying, don't you worry, Barrichello, Barrichello for pole, Barrichello.
Listen, let's not jump our bolts too quickly here. The race is tomorrow, and that's another day. And Rubens, but actually, let's just forget about it. This is fairy tale stuff. And if Brawn were to pull off a 1-2 tomorrow, this would be probably one of the greatest sporting stories, not just in Grand Prix racing. It's absolutely remarkable. These people, they're like Lazarus. They've come back from the dead. 2 weeks ago, they were buried. No one was talking about them. They didn't even have drivers for the car. It's remarkable. Fantastic for them.
What does it do for the sport?
It does everything, because it shows sport can be so beautiful but can be very brutal and very cruel, and this is one of the beautiful moments. It's something that you have to be here to witness the good feel factor for Brawn. And you know, they were wanted on the grid, everyone helped, and I'd have to say that you can clearly see the great wand of Bernie Eccleston behind this, because you know the fact that they've got a new sponsor. This is all to do with man management, and I believe that Bernie has a huge influence on this.
Yeah, there's no question that Mr. Ecclestone has played a part in that, but I think that one thing you touched on there was the fact that the whole paddock wanted this to happen. You had Mercedes-Benz making engines available when others didn't seem to want to. You know, Honda didn't want to provide the engine. And the story here is just a fantastic one, you know, and Jenson is back where he deserves to be. He's a world-class driver, and I think we're going to see great results this year.
Interesting thing, David, both drivers have won before, so they don't have to come to terms with sleeping tonight about how and what it's like to win. They've both done that, and so that will take a little bit of the steam away in terms of anxiety. They will come to the grid knowing that they are able to win if they're given the car to do so.
Okay. Yeah, and just so you know, we are actually outside the Brawn GB garage. If anyone of note pops out, we'll definitely try and grab them for a chat. But let's turn our attentions to your old team, Red Bull, and in particular, the man who's taken your seat. He takes your seat and then sticks it third on the grid.
Oh, a fantastic result for Red Bull. I knew he was ready. That's why I knew it was time to step aside.
Very magnanimous.
You know, he's a great talent. We saw that in Monza last year. He didn't have anyone drop out to win that race. He won it from the front. So great performance, and it'll be really interesting to see just what fuel levels these cars are running.
And you know very intimately how much Mark Webber likes to assert himself over his teammates. What will it mean to him that this new guy saunters into the team, sticks it third on the grid while Mark's a few places back?
Well, we've got to remember, of course, that part of the qualifying, you run the fuel that you'll start the Grand Prix. So there may well be several laps of fuel difference between the cars. A team has to make a decision. They'll either give both the drivers a chance to go for the pole position, or they may try and cover their bases. So in theory, we'll find out in a couple of hours' time when the fuel levels are announced. But we may find out that actually Sebastian was fueled for the quali, the fastest quali lap, and Mark is going for the race result.
He looked so good.
Yeah.
He is as smooth as silk. I'm hugely impressed by this young driver. No one really gave him a chance coming in last year, and then he pops up, and he just didn't win in Monza. He just created such a euphoria around the way he tackled that particular weekend. In qualifying, he was on pole position, and then he matched it up with a fantastic win. This is a real talent, somebody that's emerging big time on the scene, and these young drivers like Hamilton will have to watch their back.
That was usually your expertise, finding these young guys before they were ready in Formula
Stop trying to be nice to me at this stage.
Seriously, you know, you put Schumacher on the grid in Belgium. What year was that?
That was 1991, I do believe. It didn't take him long to get out of Jordan at that stage, and you seem to...
You sold him, apparently, Eddie.
You'd be a lot greyer than you are now if you'd driven for Jordan.
All right, well, we've covered the top three, that's for sure. Let's have a word for now with Robert Kubica. He came in P4 on the grid. We can now hear from him. He's speaking with Lee.
Robert, fourth position. With how things were looking at the start of practice, are you happy with that?
Well, I think yes. I mean, looking the situation that some strong cars are very strong, like Brown, like Toyota, like Williams. I'm additionally not running cars, so it's for sure not an advantage to don't have it. So I did very good quali 2, the first run, which gives me already easy going into quali 3. So that's why in quali 3 we were quite confident, but unfortunately in last run when I put new tires, Nico went wide in corner 14 and he put a lot of dust on the track, and I lost there massive my tires were dirty, and last 2-3 corners were just disaster, unfortunately. But anyway, I think Brown was impossible to catch, but third was possible.
Speak to you here about the fact that he's a man with a point to prove after the way he lost. Well, Eddie, Robert Kubica, after the way that that last season panned out, he comes into this with a point to prove to his team and to the paddock, doesn't he?
Well, he was very outspoken about the way that he thought that BMW just, dropped everything, didn't do the testing and the development that he thought that he should be doing, because he was a championship contender last year, and suddenly, bang, all of a sudden he can see his world championship aspirations just vanish. And he was outspoken. Some people thought maybe too much so, but he's proved his point. He's got a team now that know that he can deliver.
And he made reference there to the fact that nobody can beat Brawn. Very much this new Brawn GP team have come in here and made everybody reassess where they're at, actually, haven't they?
Well, we have a completely new set of regulations, so anything that was there in the form book from last year is obviously being reset. New Formula One season, new set of regulations, and the team that have done the best job in getting the maximum performance is Brawn GP.
Well, they've looked, I think, where you have to admire Ross. He's been an unbelievable tactician. I mean, I go back to the mid-70s when I knew him at March, and of course he became on the scene. In fact, he won Le Mans with Jaguar. We don't need to go through his whole history, but when he was with Arrows and then with Benetton, he had everyone said, oh, well, he could have only have won because of the great Michael Schumacher, particularly when he went to Ferrari. This is new territory for him. These are two old, really hardcore professional drivers, but not really in the same class as Michael Schumacher. And what has he done? He's put 1 and 2 on the grid in the first race. It is remarkable. As I've already pointed out, this is fairy tale stuff.
Well, I think it'd been a bit hard writing Jensen not to be in the same class as Michael Schumacher. I don't think
there's no question he's not. I don't think there is anyone that's ever been in his standard.
Yeah, well, Michael's an incredible driver, there's no question, but I also think that Jensen's an incredible talent, and he just hasn't had the car over his career. Michael obviously managed to engineer the situation where he had a great car for most of his career.
Okay, well, we can now hear from Jensen Button, along with the other 2 drivers who've made it onto the top 3 places on the grid. Here they are.
Well, Jensen, everyone was tipping you to be on the pole or to be on the front row here for the Australian Grand Prix. I guess it was easy.
I wish. I mean, the last 5 or 6 months for us, both of us, have been so tough, because going from not having a drive or any future in racing to putting it on pole here is just it's just amazing. It really is, and I've got to give all credit to the team and Ross and Nick for making this happen, really. And this is where we deserve to be, I think, after the tough times I've had.
What were your thoughts as you came into qualifying? Obviously, you'd been quick. Other cars had also shown their pace. What were your hopes as you went into this qualifying session?
Well, this morning the pace seemed to be pretty good on both tyres. I was reasonably happy, but we didn't really know what other people's pace was, and you don't really until you get to qualifying. And they seemed a little bit closer than I thought, actually. The Q1 and Q2, they were sort of 1/10, 2/10 behind. But I was struggling a little bit on low fuel for some reason. I just couldn't get the car working right. But when we put fuel in it, it felt a bit more normal. And in a way, that's a good thing, isn't it? That should help us out in the race.
Well, I did expect Jensen Button to be smiling a little bit more than that, but there's no doubt that this man's got a smile on his face. So, Richard Branson, you have the Midas touch. You turn up here in Formula One and you stick both your cars on the front row of the grid. That's good timing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we invested in the best engineer in Formula One, Ross Brawn, and it came good. And yeah, all right, I'm a lucky bastard. let's just
we know that, don't you worry.
No, it's been brilliant, and obviously tomorrow's the really important day. But the drivers drove beautifully, the car's fantastic. And it's great that it's a Virgin car. Can't be bad.
Yes, well, I apologise if Richard's colourful language offended anybody there. But
are we on television?
I suppose we are live on television on the BBC. It's interesting to know when you decided to get involved in this team. Did you wait and see that they were super fast in winter testing and then make the decision?
When Honda decided to pull the plug on the team, we decided to see if we could save the team, because it's it's a great British team, and there's a lot of people that work there. And so in the end, we've worked out something with management where the team is saved, and I think it can go from strength to strength from here.
Richard, First of all, I might say, having sent about 16,000 proposals to come into Jordan at one stage, and I know Reynard was the same, why have you decided on this? Well, you've already alluded to that.
Well, I think really was investing in Ross Brawn. I mean, he is absolutely brilliant.
No question.
And if anybody could pull it off, he can pull it off. And he's got two brilliant drivers as well. And timing's everything. Anyway, we've been very fortunate.
If I may just finish before David asks the question. 2 weeks ago, when all of the speculation was that you were going to come in, and your comment was, if I can recall it properly, was that you'll come into the sport when it's regulated properly and when it's under certain controls. Are you now satisfied that you've been given some undertakings that perhaps those controls that you required are in place?
Well, there were two reasons, the two things that we said. One was that the sport must be going towards clean fuels, and we've developed a fuel that they can use, and we hope they'll use in the future. And the second thing was that they brought the basic costs of entry into the sport down, and that is happening as well. So I think it's a big step in the right direction.
Well, I'd like to congratulate you, me personally. We are absolutely thrilled that you've taken this big step, and enjoy the ride.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations. Well, Eddie, hey, what a time to get involved in Formula One.
You
struggled for
talked
all these
about
years.
Midas touch. Look at him, he
First
can't
race
get
in
the
ground.
grin off his face. And good luck to him, because, you know, he had actually made the decision to fly here. He's going off to Sydney to see a rock concert tonight. We only wish that we could be there with him.
All right, thank you very much. Let's have a quick look at the grid now, and DC, you can talk us over your take on the grid and how it's all shaped up here at qualifying for Melbourne.
Well, I think an incredibly exciting start to this Grand Prix season.
Biggest surprise?
Well, of course, everyone has been talking about the performance of the new Brawn GP, but there you can see they've got the front row locked out there with my friend Jenson Button, and also an old racer of mine, Rubens Barrichello, on the front row. Moving back through the grid, big surprise there to see Alonso outside the top 10, obviously struggling. Nakajima there just behind him, and of course, 7th row for McLaren. When was the last time McLaren were on the 7th row?
And Eddie, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you both very much for joining us. Make sure you join us for the race live on BBC One, 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. An Englishman on the front row, and it's not Lewis Hamilton.